Let me ask you something before we start. When was the last time you actually watched yourself walk? Not in a mirror, not on purpose, just really noticed what your feet are doing while you move through your own kitchen. Most people never do. And that's exactly why this video matters. Here's a fact that surprises almost everyone I work with. The leading predictor of a serious fall in someone over 70 isn't poor eyesight, it isn't weak ankles, and it isn't even age itself. It's a walking pattern so common, so quiet, so normal looking that almost nobody notices it's happening, including the person doing it. I've spent over 2 decades helping older adults move safely, and I can tell you the single biggest thing I see, again and again, walking through my clinic doors after a fall, is this. Their gait changed years before the fall ever happened. Nobody pointed it out, nobody warned them, and by the time they fell, the pattern had already been quietly setting them up for trouble for a long time. Today I want to break that cycle for you. I'm going to show you exactly what this dangerous pattern looks like, why your body slides into it without you noticing, and most importantly, the one specific correction that can start protecting you from your very next step forward. No equipment, no gym membership, no special shoes, just a shift in awareness and 5 simple exercises you can do in your hallway today. If you find this useful, stick around to the end. I'll also tell you the one warning sign that means you should stop and call your doctor before doing anything else. Let me tell you about a patient I'll call Margaret, because her story plays out in some version almost every week in my clinic. Margaret was 74, lived alone, and prided herself on her independence. She walked her dog every morning, did her own grocery shopping, and hadn't had so much as a stumble in years, at least not one she remembered. Then one afternoon, reaching for a coffee mug in her own kitchen, her foot caught the edge of a small rug she'd had for 15 years. She went down hard, fractured her wrist, and spent the next 6 weeks relearning tasks she'd done without thinking her entire adult life. When she came to me afterward, the first thing she said was, "I don't understand it. I wasn't even doing anything risky." And she was telling the truth. She wasn't climbing a ladder. She wasn't rushing down icy steps. She was walking across her own kitchen floor in broad daylight. But when I watched her walk just a few feet down my clinic hallway, the pattern was obvious within seconds. Short, shuffling steps. Minimal foot lift. A slight forward lean that had become so habitual she didn't even register it as unusual anymore. That rug had been in the same spot for 15 years. Her walking pattern was the only thing that had actually changed. This is the story I want you to hold on to as we go through the rest of this video, because it captures exactly why this topic matters so much and why it's so often missed. Falls don't usually happen because someone did something reckless. They happen because an ordinary, everyday movement, the simple act of walking, has slowly, invisibly become less safe than it used to be. And because nothing dramatic seems to be happening, nobody catches it in time. Not the person walking, not their family, sometimes not even their doctor, unless they're specifically looking for it. That's what makes this different from most fall prevention advice you've probably already heard. You've likely been told to remove tripping hazards from your home, improve the lighting, maybe get your vision checked. All good advice, and I'd encourage you to do all of it. But none of that addresses the root issue if the way you're walking has itself become the hazard. You can clear every rug from every hallway in your house, and if your gait pattern hasn't changed, you'll simply find a new way to trip. On a sidewalk crack, a parking lot curb, a single stray sock on the bedroom floor. The fix has to start with the walk itself. Picture this. An older adult walks from the living room to the kitchen. The steps are noticeably shorter than they used to be. The feet barely clear the floor. They slide rather than lift. The shoulders round forward slightly, the chin drops, the eyes fix on the ground a few feet ahead. The arms, instead of swinging naturally, stay close to the body, almost frozen. If this sounds familiar, either in yourself or someone you love, you're looking at what's commonly called a shuffle gait, and it is one of the single most common movement patterns I see in adults past 70. Here's the part that catches people off guard. Shuffle gait rarely starts as a decision. Nobody wakes up one day and decides to walk this way. It creeps in gradually, almost always for a completely understandable reason. Maybe a stumble that shook your confidence, maybe a stretch of joint pain, maybe simply months of less activity than usual. The body responds to that uncertainty in a very logical way. It shortens the steps, keeps the feet low, and leans the torso forward to feel more grounded. The tragic irony is that this so-called safer way of walking is actually one of the riskiest patterns the human body can adopt. Here's why. Broken down simply, reason 1, clearance disappears. When your foot barely lifts off the ground, there's there's almost no margin for error. A rug edge, a slightly raised tile, a pet underfoot, a crack in the sidewalk, any of these can catch your toe. And because there's no clearance to begin with, even a small obstacle becomes a major event. Reason 2, recovery time vanishes. Short steps combined with a forward-leaning posture mean your center of gravity is already tipped ahead of you. When something does catch your foot, your body has almost no time and no room to catch itself. The fall is often already happening before the brain even registers the trip. Reason 3, it's a strength problem in disguise. Shuffle gait is frequently a visible symptom of weakening hip flexors, glutes, and core muscles. The very muscles responsible for lifting the leg cleanly with each step. The less these muscles are used, the weaker they get, and the worse the shuffle becomes. It's a downward spiral, but, and this is the good news, it's a spiral that can be reversed at almost any age. There's also a fourth piece to this puzzle that doesn't get talked about nearly enough, and it has to do with your brain rather than your muscles. Walking feels automatic to most of us, something we do without a second thought. But underneath that automatic feeling is a remarkably sophisticated communication system between your brain, your spinal cord, and the muscles in your legs and feet. Every single step requires dozens of tiny, split-second adjustments, sensing the floor through the nerves in your feet, calculating balance shifts, coordinating which muscles fire and in what order. Neuroscientists call this whole system motor patterning, and like any skill, it depends on regular use to stay sharp. When someone shuffles for an extended period, months, sometimes years, that motor pattern for a proper heel-to-toe stride doesn't just sit there waiting to be used again. It actually starts to fade, the same way a language you haven't spoken in decades becomes harder to recall, even though you technically still know it. This is why so many people who try to consciously walk normally after a long stretch of shuffling describe it as oddly difficult, even a little disorienting. Their brain has to relearn a pattern it once performed without effort. This is genuinely encouraging news once you understand it correctly, because it means none of this is a fixed, permanent decline. Motor patterns are trainable at any age. The same neuroplasticity that lets a stroke survivor relearn how to walk, or lets an older adult pick up a new hobby like painting or playing an instrument, is exactly what allows a faded heel strike to be rebuilt step by step, practice session by practice session. It simply requires deliberate, repeated, conscious practice, which is exactly what the exercises later in this video are designed to provide. If there's one single correction I'd want every person watching this to walk away with, it's this: lead every step with your heel. This is called a heel strike, and it's not some trendy walking technique. It's literally how the human body is designed to move. Watch a child or a healthy young adult walk and you'll see it instantly. Heel touches down first, weight rolls smoothly through the arch, crosses the ball of the foot, and pushes off cleanly through the toes into the next step. It's an efficient rolling motion that the whole body works together to produce. Over the years, that motion tends to erode. As confidence drops and certain muscles weaken, the foot starts landing flatter, sometimes almost toe first, and the rolling motion disappears entirely. What's left is a flatter, lower, shorter step. In other words, a shuffle. The fix is more straightforward than most people expect. With every step, reach your heel slightly forward, just a couple of inches further than feels automatic. Let the heel make contact with the ground first. Feel your body weight roll forward, heel to arch to ball of foot. Push off deliberately through your toes to begin the next step. Most importantly, lift the foot before each step. Don't drag it, pick it up, carry it forward, and place the heel down with intention. Small as it sounds, this single change sets off a chain reaction through your entire body. Your stride naturally lengthens, which improves balance and forward momentum. Your foot clears the ground properly, which removes the trip hazard risk almost entirely. Your posture straightens on its own because a heel first step physically pulls your weight back and upright instead of letting it collapse forward. And your hip flexors, glutes, and core muscles get reactivated with every single step, quietly rebuilding the very strength that protects you from future falls. One change, a cascade of benefits. Let's turn it into a habit with 5 exercises you can start practicing today. 5 exercises to rebuild a safer walking pattern. Exercise 1, the mindful heel strike walk. Why it matters? Before anything else, your brain needs to relearn what a proper heel strike actually feels like. If you've been shuffling for months or years, that neural pathway has gone quiet from disuse, but it hasn't disappeared. This exercise wakes it back up. How to do it? Find a clear hallway or stand beside a countertop or sturdy wall for light support if you'd like it. Begin walking slowly, thinking about nothing except your heel. With every step, deliberately reach the heel slightly forward and let it land first. Feel the contact. Feel the roll through your foot. Feel the push off through your toes. Walk 10 steps forward this way, turn carefully using small, controlled steps, and walk 10 steps back. That's one full set. Complete 3 sets, resting 30 seconds between each. Key focus. Go slower than feels natural. Speed is the enemy here, because the slower you move, the more conscious control you have over each individual step, and the stronger the signal you're sending your brain to relearn the pattern. Level up. Once the flat floor version feels comfortable, try it on a different surface. Carpet instead of hardwood, for example. The slight variation forces your nervous system to adapt the pattern instead of just memorizing one surface, which builds real-world reliability. Exercise 2, Standing High Knee March. Why it matters. Shuffle gait almost always comes paired with weakened hip flexors, the muscles responsible for lifting your leg with each stride. Weak hip flexors mean poor foot clearance, and poor foot clearance is exactly what turns a rug edge into a fall. This exercise rebuilds that lifting strength directly. How to do it. Stand behind a sturdy chair, resting both hands lightly on the backrest for support. March in place, lifting your right knee toward your chest as high as comfortably possible, then lowering it with control. Repeat with the left knee. That's 1 repetition. Complete 15 repetitions per side for 30 total lifts, moving at a slow, deliberate pace. Key focus. Keep your torso upright the entire time. Don't lean backward to help the knee rise. The lift should come entirely from the hip. And control the lowering phase just as carefully as the lift. That downward control builds the strength your leg needs the instant your foot lands. Level up. Once this feels manageable, try marching forward through your hallway, lifting each knee, then placing the heel down first as you step. This combines exercise 1 and 2 into something very close to real walking. Exercise 3, Stride Length Training Walk. Why it matters. Shuffle gait often cuts stride length roughly in half. A shortened stride disrupts your natural balance rhythm and forces your weight into that risky forward-leaning posture. This drill gently rebuilds a longer, more stable stride. How to do it. Place 2 small markers, tape, sticky notes, anything flat, on the floor about 18 inches apart. Standing at one end, take a step and aim to land your heel at or just past the second marker, then repeat with the opposite foot at the same distance. Walk the length of your hallway this way for 10 full strides, then turn and return. Complete 2 full lengths. Key focus. This is about gentle extension, not lunging. If 18 inches feels like a reach, start with 12. What matters is building the habit of intentionally reaching the heel forward. The exact distance will grow naturally over time. Level up. Move the markers slightly further apart every week or 2, half an inch at a time. Most people are pleasantly surprised at how quickly stride length improves once it's trained on purpose. Exercise 4. Slow motion walking. Why it matters. Speed is where good walking mechanics quietly fall apart, because at normal pace, your body relies on habit instead of conscious control. Removing speed from the equation entirely forces every muscle involved in walking to fire independently, which makes this one of the most effective tools available for relearning a safer gait. How to do it. Stand at one end of your hallway and walk at the slowest pace your body can manage. Aim for each step to take a full 3 to 4 seconds. Lift the foot, pause briefly in the air, reach the heel forward, lower it down, feel the weight transfer, push off with the toes, and begin the next step. Walk the full hallway this way, turn carefully, and return. That's 1 set, complete 2 sets. Key focus. This will feel oddly difficult, and that's the point. Every wobble you notice is your balance system being challenged and trained. Every small correction your ankle makes is your nervous system rebuilding responsiveness it had quietly lost. Level up. Once you feel steady doing this near a wall, try closing your eyes for 2 or 3 slow steps. This significantly increases the challenge to your balance system and accelerates the adaptation. Exercise 5. Obstacle step over. Why it matters. A quiet hallway is a great place to start, but real life is full of small obstacles. Door thresholds, rugs, pet toys, garden hoses. Each one is a trip risk for someone with reduced foot clearance. This exercise trains the exact sequence your body needs. Spot the obstacle, lift high enough to clear it, and land safely on the other side, all in a split second. How to do it. Place a rolled towel or a foam roller about 4 to 6 inches high in your hallway. Stand a few feet back, with a wall or chair within reach if needed. Walk toward the object at a normal pace. As you reach it, deliberately lift your right foot, clearing the obstacle with room to spare, then bring the left foot over as well. Continue a few steps beyond it, turn and step back over it on your return. Complete 5 full passes in each direction for 10 total step overs. Key focus, don't rush the approach. Slow down slightly as you near the object, lift your foot early, and step with confidence rather than hesitation. You're training your brain to anticipate obstacles rather than panic at them. Level up. Vary the height and texture of the obstacle from week to week. And once it feels easy, try practicing while holding something light in one hand. A far more realistic simulation of how real trips actually tend to happen. Why it matters. Your ankles and the small muscles in your feet play a far bigger role in safe walking than most people realize. A heel strike depends on your ankle being able to flex and extend smoothly with each step. If that joint has grown stiff from sitting more than it used to, even a perfectly practiced heel strike pattern will feel forced and unnatural. This simple seated exercise restores that flexibility without putting any strain on your balance. How to do it. Sit toward the front edge of a sturdy chair with both feet flat on the floor. Keeping your heels planted, lift the front of both feet and toes as high as comfortable, hold for 2 seconds, then lower back down. Next, keeping your toes planted, lift both heels off the floor as high as comfortable, hold for 2 seconds, then lower. Alternate between these two movements for 12 full repetitions of each. Key focus. Keep the movement slow and controlled rather than bouncy. You should feel a gentle stretch and working sensation through the front of your shins and the back of your calves, not pain and not strain in your knees. Level up. Once this feels easy seated, try doing the heel raises while standing, holding onto a counter or sturdy chair back for support. This builds the calf and ankle strength needed for a confident push-off at the end of every step. A few common questions. I've been shuffling for years. Is it too late for me to fix this? Almost certainly not. Motor patterns and muscle strength respond to training at virtually any age, and I've personally worked with patients in their 80s and 90s who rebuilt a noticeably more confident, stable stride within a matter of weeks. The timeline varies from person to person, but the direction of change is almost always positive when these exercises are practiced consistently. How long before I notice a real difference? Most people I work with start to notice their posture improving and their steps feeling more natural within 2 to 3 weeks of consistent daily practice. The deeper strength gains, the kind that genuinely reduce fall risk, tend to build over 6 to 8 weeks. Patience matters more than intensity here. What if I use a cane or a walker? These exercises can absolutely be adapted. The core principle, leading with the heel, lifting the foot deliberately, lengthening the stride within a safe range, still applies, simply performed with your mobility aid in place for support. If you use an assistive device, consider doing these exercises with your physical therapist first so they can tailor the movements to your specific equipment and needs. Can family members help with this? Yes, and I genuinely encourage it. Having someone nearby gently reminding you to reach that heel or quietly observing your form makes a real difference in how quickly the new pattern sticks. This is exactly the kind of thing that's far easier to notice in someone else than in yourself, so don't hesitate to ask a spouse, adult child, or friend to watch you walk and offer feedback. A safety note. Before you begin. Before trying any of these exercises, please take this seriously. Your safety always comes first. If you've had a recent hip or knee replacement, are currently being treated for plantar fasciitis or another heel condition, or have been advised by a doctor to avoid weight-bearing activity, talk to your physician or physical therapist before starting. These movements may need to be modified for your specific situation. Always practice near a wall, countertop, or sturdy chair you can reach for support. Move slowly and never rush. Wear supportive, non-slip footwear or practice barefoot only on a safe, even surface. And if at any point you feel sharp pain, dizziness, or anything that simply doesn't feel right, stop immediately. No exercise routine is worth risking an injury over. Progress at the pace your own body sets, and trust it to tell you when it's ready for the next step. Bringing it all together. A shuffle gait doesn't appear overnight, and it won't disappear overnight either. But it absolutely can be reversed at almost any age with consistent, patient practice. Each of these 5 exercises builds on the one before it. The mindful heel strike rebuilds the core motor pattern. The high knee march restores the lifting strength behind it. The stride length walk extends your range safely. The slow motion walk deepens your balance control. And the obstacle step over prepares you for the unpredictable surfaces of everyday life. Practiced consistently, not perfectly, but consistently, the results compound. Steps get longer. Posture straightens. Confidence on uneven ground returns. And perhaps most importantly, the quiet fear of falling that steals so much independence from older adults begins to ease, because the body underneath that fear is genuinely getting stronger. That independence, the ability to walk to your own mailbox, manage your own stairs, keep up with your grandchildren without a second thought, isn't a small thing, it's everything. And it starts with something as simple as where your heel lands on your very next step. I'd love to hear from you. Have you noticed your own steps getting shorter over the years, or is this something you've seen in a parent or loved one? Drop a comment with your age and where you're watching from. Your story might be exactly what helps someone else watching today. If this was helpful, please consider subscribing for more practical, no equipment needed health guidance made specifically for adults navigating aging with strength and confidence. Thank you for spending this time with me, and here's to taking your next step.